All right, we are live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So today we got a lot to talk about in our stream. I'm going to start off by talking about the biggest opportunity in Web 3.0 right now that like pretty much everybody is just not even paying attention to, okay? So some people get this right, but a lot of people get this wrong, and I'm going to talk about in this video why you need to understand this and why it's so critical for long-term success in this space. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at a lot of things that have happened in the space since yesterday. Again, we do these live streams Monday through Friday on this channel. Just subscribe, turn on notifications. You're going to find out about those whenever we go live. There's so much stuff happening right now that you really just, it's crazy trying to stay on top of everything. And so that's what we try to help you do on these streams. And so we're going to check out the crypto markets, answer some of your questions that you have in the live chat replay here, and a lot more. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step-by-step start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We got Culture Hives, Ethan, Jacob Lee, Automatic Beats, ADM, so Kobe, DJ, hope I'm saying that right, or maybe it's DJ Jake. Let me know how you pronounce your name in the live chat there. We got Muhammad, Robert, IMF, ADM, technically, welcome. All right, so let's jump in here. So let's talk about the big opportunity that's happening in Web 3.0 right now that is staring everybody in the face, but a lot of people just absolutely are missing the forest through the trees here, okay? So I want to pull up this chart that I referenced in a stream a couple weeks ago, but bring this back into the picture because I think this is really critical for understanding this idea. And I want to connect the dots so that you can see this and actually, understand, because this is critical to pay attention to. So I got this chart pulled up right here of the crypto users versus the internet users over time. Okay, so this is published by Raoul Paul and his team over at Global Macro Investor. Huge forward-thinking person in this space, been a big pioneer in how we understand network effects and adoption of blockchain technology. And, we've seen lots of stats about the rapid growth of the Web 3.0 space out there. One of the really popular statistics is that Web 3.0 is growing twice as fast as the internet was at the same number of users in the late 90s, maybe like sometime like 1997, 1998. And if you actually project that out across the rest of this decade, which I think this decade is really the one to pay attention to for crypto, that puts us at an insane saturation of the entire population by the end of 2020, so up to the year 2030. Okay, so you can actually see that here and how it's tracking against the internet itself. You can see this is the internet users from 1992 to 2006, and you can see what crypto has done in its early phase. So if you compare them in their infancy when they actually started gaining adoption and gain network effects, about how this spans across time. Okay, and you can see this forecasted out here out into 2030. So I talked about this a little bit in the streams the past couple days about how we've got so many smaller things that are adding up on top of this that are causing us to push this space forward. And pretty much all the updates that I talk about in these streams when we see these kind of advancements on a day-to-day basis are just another brick in that building block towards this level of adoption that can put us at multiple billions of people or 1 billion people, and by 2025, and billions and billions and billions of people by 2030. And how we'd see these sort of booms and busts along the way, but that you actually reach this massive saturation that could put the entire crypto market cap, into the hundreds of trillions of dollars by that time, all right, and crossing, $10+ trillion a lot faster, sooner than that, which would be absolutely insane for the cryptocurrency prices in the relatively near future. Okay, so what's the big opportunity here? Well, the big opportunity really is the actual trend in and of itself that I'm talking about. And you have lots of people who are basically looking at the short-term fluctuations along the way as, what is basically an indication of where this entire space is headed and how those short-term fluctuations actually have a less of a bearing on this type of thing. that don't really change the long-term trend, okay? And the biggest opportunity here is actually realizing that, because it matters for, traders, people who are in here for, short time, trying to make short-term gains, by riding sort of the fluctuations in the marketplace. But if your focus is actually on where the technology is headed for the long term, all that stuff matters a lot less, okay? And so I actually want to talk about a couple things that are important for that. And we can actually see those trends, right? I can show you some data to actually back that up, other than just the charts and statistics about where the users are headed over time. So why does this matter right now? Well, you've got a lot of people who are, kind of disillusioned with the space because of what cryptocurrency prices have done over the past, 3-4 months. I see this all the time. Basically, anytime you have sort of these price fluctuations, you see people absolutely leave the space. But that's actually the worst possible thing to do. Like, the best thing to do is double down the space when it gets quiet, because that's where some of the massive opportunity lies. Because basically, the competition for everything goes down because people check out, and that's where you can double down and learn to give you that competitive edge that's going to put you ahead of the pack as you can ride that wave up to, crypto, where it's headed over the next, 5-10 years to reach that saturation. I mean, I was here in the space in 2017, whenever we had this massive, cataclysmic crash, okay, and into this, multi-year bear market. But I doubled down during that time and, developed a really strong expertise, was 100 steps ahead of everybody else entering in the space, in 2020 or 2021, okay? So that's where the big opportunity is, especially right now as prices have gone down and as the trend rises, okay? So whether you're trying to become a developer, whether you're trying to get the expertise in the space, whether you're trying to, add to your positions while everything's kind of down, to me, the big trend really has not been broken. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so... I always try to be very cautious on this, channel whenever price, seems to be going the opposite direction of where the adoption is headed. It's not being too overconfident. You always want to be sort of kicking the tires on your own assumptions, right? But you also have to think, like, okay, if you have sort of a long-term time horizon, are 50% price swings in major assets like, Bitcoin and Ethereum possible within that paradigm? I think that they are. So, if you look at, like the max chart for something like Bitcoin, for example, and you look at, let's just do a year for now. Maybe go back a little further. Okay, I can actually pull a more sophisticated chart here in a minute. We'll just use CoinGecko for now because it's easy to see. Like, if you look at this trend over time, you see these bubbles along the way, but our trend, like, is still intact, right? Like, if you see those corrections, can you not still see that a trend is still forming here, and that trend actually mirrors what the actual adoption is? You can look at multiple different metrics on here. You could look at stuff, let me just pull this up on here, like, active wallets. Okay, we can turn this on. We can see what the active wallets are doing on chain, okay, and how that tends to, in terms of network effects actually changing, affecting the price or being highly correlated to the price. Can you expect to see prices go down while active wallets are still continuing to rise, and that being a trend that I'm paying attention to more, because it actually has a pretty big bearing on what I think is going to happen with the cryptocurrency prices long term and where the entire space is headed. If you look at those fundamental adoption metrics, those are the ones that matter to me, not the short term, price fluctuations and price movements. And especially when prices go down, a ton of new opportunity comes on the table, because that's when the space gets quieter. You can double down to learn without as much noise and be ahead of everybody else who's going to come in after you. Okay. So a couple other things about this, we're seeing pretty crazy, in terms of like network effect adoption and adding more sort of bricks in those walls of use cases. That's what I really pay attention to, is because that's what drives network effects in the first place, is the more stuff you can do with the, Web 3.0 crypto networks, the more demand there is to actually use them, and that demand can actually accrue to the cryptocurrencies themselves. That's sort of my long-term thesis. And so every time you see a major advancement in this, that's another brick in the wall of creating that type of demand. And so, a couple of different things to look for in that regard. Yesterday we saw the Goldman Sachs homepage actually change to insights on digitalization from cryptocurrencies to the metaverse. explore the mega trends that are reshaping economies. Okay, so this is a pretty big change in tone from Goldman in years past, all right? And this is the type of thing where we're seeing these flips in messaging from a lot of these big mouthpieces, because they're seeing the same types of things I've been saying on this channel for years now, and then we're starting to actually see this real adoption. We're seeing this with policy changes inside the United States, okay? Talking about taking crypto very seriously. We talk here about the U.S. wanting to become a leader in the Web 3.0 space, how that we haven't seen that type of clarification in a very long time. So those are types of things that really matter, that are going to help drive that trend that I'm talking about, this mega trend, that's Goldman's own words here, to, billions and billions and billions of users by the end of the decade. And so crypto tends to jump in leaps and phases. It's like a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back situation. Massive progress, and then it kind of gets boring for a little while. Okay, and then massive progress, and then it kind of gets boring for a little while. And we've got some pretty big updates happening this year that I think are going to cause, some leaps forward. I don't know exactly when they're going to happen, but we've got a ton of catalysts coming up. And that's also important for the market and for speculators, for people who they need to throw fuel for the fire to see that something's going to happen in the future to ride those waves. We'll talk about those here in a minute. But, some other stuff to definitely keep an eye on that I'm watching is what's going on in the NFT space, okay? And, because that's another industry that we talked about this some yesterday with, Yuga Labs, basically, dropping ApeCoin, acquiring the CryptoPunks and Amoebits, right, from Larva Labs, and what they plan to do with the metaverse, and how I think the metaverse is gonna be one of these mega trends, okay, just like Goldman Sachs is talking here on their homepage, and what that could look like. We see there's lots of question marks about what the metaverse is going to look like. Is everybody going to spend all their time online in VR goggles? I don't think that's going to happen. I think the epicenter of metaverse really surrounds gaming and digital worlds. That's where all the users are in the use cases right now. And that's and with NFTs, I think we're going to see that absolutely explode, and then maybe some other things kind of surrounding those use cases, draw sort of more concentric circles outside of that. Okay. But one really important thing here to understand is that the people expect, I saw a stat floating around, I can't exactly find the source, so you have to fact check me on this, but I saw a stat floating around that the expectation is that, NFTs basically the market cap of many of these NFTs are expected to grow to $30 billion. Like, I think it's inside of this year. Okay, so I need to fact check me on that. Don't quote me on it for sure, but that's a pretty insane valuation for a lot of these projects. Now, the crazy thing to watch out for with what's going on with Yuga Labs, and it's not investment advice, but Yuga Labs, I'm paying more and more attention to what they're doing. Okay, for lots of reasons. Number one, I'm not betting against the apes. I'll put it that way. So why is that? Well, basically, I'm not betting against a lot of what's going on there because there's an insane amount of community. That's one of the reasons I've been watching actually what's been going on with ApeCoin. Okay, I think we have some fortuitous timing with what's happening here. Again, it's not investment advice. I'm not telling you to buy ApeCoin, but it's the only reason I'm watching this type of thing, because of actual network effects. And this is one of the things that I think is make or break from lots of crypto projects. Okay, is basically, do you have some sort of do you have something that can actually increase the value proposition and have an active network of users that can hold and support and use this coin for different things? And so, in my opinion, Yuga Labs has bootstrapped that with community in and of itself with the NFT holders, okay? Super duper duper strong. And now they bought basically the IP rights to CryptoPunks. And then they're talking about pioneering in the metaverse, setting the tone for the metaverse with decentralized, all this type of stuff, right? And you could say, oh, that's all speculative, like sounds great. And hopefully that value goes to the ApeCoin. But I do think there's actual utility that can come out of that, and they can be a big competitor in the space. So, that's the type of stuff that continues to snowball. And then you have that with DeFi and gaming and everything else. It gets absolutely crazy pretty fast. Not to mention just the boring use cases for crypto, like payments, stable coins, all that type of stuff. Okay. Somebody says, I feel like NFTs is going to stick into the gaming industry and more. Yeah, I definitely think that gaming is a huge part of NFTs for sure. Um, let's see here. What does mean by BS? I try to keep the show family friendly, so I'll let you just Google that one. So, yeah. So basically, like I said, I'm not giving financial advice on ape coin here. I'm not saying to go buy apes, but it's one. I think it's a super strong project, based on everything that I'm talking about, and I do think that those are the types of things that are going to continue to do this. Okay, there's even the just boring use cases for crypto in and of itself. So let's talk about some other catalysts, coming in the pike for sure. I've been talking about these some in the streams this past week, so definitely check those out if you haven't already. But I'll recap here. Of course, we do have the ETH 2.0 merge coming up this year. Some of the big exciting things about that is that ETH actually becomes deflationary, most likely, assuming that the merge is successful. Number one, which I think is going to be. We got some updates on the kill and test net. We've, assuming that it's successful, which I think it's going to be, assuming that, the network activity at least stays the same. I think it's going to stay the same at least and actually increase. Okay. So if that happens, then ETH will become deflationary because we're going to be burning more ETH than the blockchain is creating. So that's super bullish for the price of ETH in and of itself. And then the last thing is the staking rewards for ETH are likely going to be higher than what most people are advertising right now. I'll talk about that some of the stream, how that's going to be a combination of the ETH that's created by the blockchain itself, and also, also the fees that are paid by the network, and how that number could be closer to, 10% than maybe the 3 to 5% that a lot of people are advertising. So we'll have to wait and see. There's lots of variables in what makes up staking rewards, but those are huge bullish catalysts coming down the pike that I think is, going to have a lot of people have things to look forward to. Greater adoption we see with NFTs in the metaverse is big. I do think we're due for significant amount of. I think we're likely going to see another leap forward in DeFi at some point. Okay, I think we're also going to see what's going to happen in the layer 2 space leap forward a lot. I've actually got a video coming out this a lot. Sorry, a video coming out this soon. I can see what's going on with layer 2 space on top of Ethereum to mimic, pull this up, what happened with a lot of the alternative layer 1 blockchains like in 2021. Okay. So if you're not familiar with layer 2s, basically this is like building a second layer on top of Ethereum where you do a lot of your transactions, and they derive their security from Ethereum. So one of the most common complaints is that Ethereum's too slow, it's too expensive to use. But Ethereum 2.0 is not going to fix that problem, but layer 2s can, and they're here now, and they're getting a lot better. And we're likely going to see some massive improvements to L2s relatively soon in the grand scheme of things. And I think this could actually have a very similar type of life cycle to what we saw with alternative layer 1 blockchains like Solana and any of the EVM compatible networks, Avalanche, Phantom, etc., etc., etc. So why? Well, basically, and if you understand this, you're going to be 2 steps ahead of the curve for this type of thing. It could be strongly positioned. So basically, we don't know for sure, but word on the street is that some of these L2s will have tokens associated with them. All right, we don't know for sure. Okay, but it stands to reason. All right, because think about it. Like, how do you incentivize somebody at a crypto native level to run infrastructure for a layer 2 without like paying them some way, and that payment being crypto native, right? Not just like VC funded or something, right? So, and there are ways to do this, a certain layer 2 architecture, but I think one likely outcome is that we're going to see people see layer 2s have tokens, okay? And this starts to get a little confusing because, on layer 2s, you pay the fees in Ether itself. That's one of the bullish things about Ether is you need it to pay for gas fees, even on the layer 2s. But there's lots of speculation that they're going to have tokens. And so that leaves a couple opportunities. One is that, you just are buying tokens that are absolutely explosive in price because of the network effect that I'm talking about in this video. Like, in these alternative layer 1s, like think about what happened to the price of those when they first launched, if you'd gotten in on them absolutely insane valuations. Okay, absolutely insane returns. So a similar type of thing could happen here. Another big potential is airdrops. Okay, so airdrops, basically, I've been a beneficiary of these. I've seen lots of airdrops happen in the DeFi space for retroactively rewarding early users. Uniswap, 1inch, ENS, right? Using these applications, making $10,000 or more for free. I've done this. I've made videos about this whenever it happens multiple times. And we can see that type of thing happen on layer 2. So whether it's at the layer 2 protocol level itself, or different applications on top of these layer 2s who are trying to incentivize early users. And that's, we see these patterns play out in crypto. Airdrops for, apps, and then, new ecosystems absolutely explode. We could see that type of thing happen with layer 2s, and if you're 2 steps ahead of the game on that. So how do you do that? Basically, well, you just start using this stuff. You don't know who's going to issue the token, but it's cheap enough to do transactions on layer 2 that you can make lots of different transactions on different applications. Of course, it requires some of your time, but, you kind of think about just like spreading your bets, a lot of stuff. You don't know what's going to take off, but some stuff you could be handsomely rewarded for. And of course, there's always risk in using bridge technologies, all that type of stuff. So definitely, be careful with all this. Put your life savings in a layer 2, or any blockchain for that matter. Somebody says, what does it mean that L2s will have tokens? Doesn't Phantom have FTM, Avalanche, FTX? That's not Avalanche, it's FTX. Terra have Luna, Cosmos have... so basically, those aren't layer 2s. Those are alternative layer 1 blockchains. The layer 2s that I'm talking about are things like Arbitrum Optimism, all that type of stuff. So can you only use ETH on Optimism? It's the only option mine shows. You can add tokens to Optimism. You got to go to the Add Token tab. You can manually paste in an address, or you can search. Sometimes you can find search results that way. Awesome. Somebody says they watched the interview yesterday, decided to sign for Dapp University. Can't wait to get into the nitty gritty of blockchain development. Yeah, totally. Check out the interview I did yesterday with Pavan. You definitely want to check that out. Somebody who, was basically a beginner in blockchain. I mean, he had a little bit of a system administration background, so some technical ability, right? But definitely not a blockchain coder by any stretch of the imagination. And broke the industry, landed a 6-figure job, first blockchain job. Absolutely crazy. I think he said his total compensation was like, I gotta go watch the video. He had a base salary of over $100,000, and like total compensation was like closer to 150 with stock options. Definitely check out that video. Lots of people have been like, man, so inspiring. And that's where he's trying to make those videos. It's like, hey, look, this really works. Here's real people that have done it, have, completely changed their life by doubling down these skills. You don't have to be an expert to get that first job. You just got to be good enough for somebody to take a chance on you. And we talk about all kinds of tips inside that video on how to position yourself and increase the likelihood that someone would take that chance on you. And a lot of the stuff that I talk about on my channel, like, he didn't even do all that stuff. He didn't even, there's a lot of stuff that say, do this, do this, do this. And all that stuff's going to increase the likelihood that you're going to get it. And he didn't even have to do all that stuff. He got it really fast. So I'm not saying that what I tell you is wrong. There's no guaranteed path on, just do this, and this is 100% going to work by this certain amount of time without any risk of failure. It's like, no, you do this stuff and you try lots of different things, and one thing's probably going to work within a certain range of expected outcomes. So let's see here. Let's see here. Does it avatar? Let's see here. How much web development is necessary for Web 3.0? If you're talking about starting to learn Web 3.0, no experience is needed to get started. That's one of the most common questions I get. Should I go learn web development first before I jump into blockchain coding? Absolutely not. Start with blockchain if that's what your goal is. You're going to hear the opposite advice all over the internet. And frankly, it's just bad advice. I mean, it's going to work. It's going to take you way longer. It's going to be way more frustrating. So, this is the boot camp. We teach NFTs and cryptocurrency from zero. Yes. So, somebody says, I got a job interview with Rust and Polkadot after watching Ethereum videos, but I don't know Rust. Well, one thing you could do there is to see if you can learn on the job. Some places will literally just train you, even if you don't know, but if you already have some sort of coding experience. So you could look at that option. How to make a bridge contract between L1 and L2. We actually have a tutorial on that inside the Blockchain Mastery program. Let's see here. I thought there's a debate between either learning front-end language first or learning Solidity first. Learn Solidity first if you want to become a blockchain developer. Learn the front-end languages as you go, because you want to learn just enough to accomplish your purpose. And then you learn everything else like once you've achieved that basic milestone. What are my thoughts on GameStop? Yeah, so we are seeing like some meme stocks start to gain significantly. I think there's just a common thread rolling through a lot of this stuff, which is, of course, we're seeing some life back in the crypto space. We're seeing, we're seeing, some rebound in stock market here. We're seeing meme stocks start to, increase in value. Smaller cap cryptocurrencies go up as well. I think there's a common thread here, which is I think people's appetite for risk is coming back. I don't know if it's going to stay that way. Like, there's still lots of unknowns, okay? One of the biggest sort of things that I think has happened this past year that's kind of caused like a lot of markets to go down is, well, two things. Number one is the monetary policy from the Central Bank of the United States, basically, raising rates, inflation's been bad, all this type of stuff, and then the outlook for that being kind of fearful. And then also the conflict that's been happening in Europe, okay, for sure. I think both of those things are very, 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 have caused a lot of fear. And one of the reasons we've seen S&P return negative year to date, crypto kind of take a dump, lots of things go down, tech stocks get absolutely decimated. I think basically people's appetite for risk was just pulled off the table. You know what I mean? But I think as we're seeing some of that appetite for risk come back. Now, I don't, there's still stuff that could happen. You know what I mean? We could still, all out total war could continue to break out. I don't know. Nobody's got a crystal ball. We could see, much more hawkishness from the Fed. Maybe. I think people are less worried about that. But I think we're seeing some appetite for risk come back in the marketplace. And so this one, definitely a chart I'm keeping my eye on. Watch what's going on with the ETH price. I hope we're breaking out. We'll see. We'll see if we can get past this trend line. I'd love to break past that and then try to establish some support. That would make me pretty optimistic for the short to midterm. We'll see. But again, I'm still laser focused on the big picture here. And even though we're seeing some, bubble-ish type of stuff along the way, that stuff is mattering less and less, especially as we're starting to see fundamentals continue to reign supreme. All right, so let's see here. So what is the future of decentralized cryptocurrency and blockchain after China tested central bank digital currency and CBDC and got more than 3 million users in China? So, central bank digital currencies are definitely a theme to watch out for. I think we're going to see central bank digital currencies probably they're going to be implemented in more and more countries. Now, whether they're going to be something that actually sticks and gains wide adoption, We'll see. You know what I mean? But some people have the big question mark, what's going to happen to crypto? Well, I don't know about every country, but here's how I think it would happen in the United States. I think, or some likely scenarios. Nobody knows for sure. Here's some educated guesses. Okay, I'm not a political scientist. I'm not a expert in monetary policy. This is just some guesses. So basically, if we have a central bank digital currency inside this, which I think we're likely gonna see something like that pretty soon. We're just seeing the conversation head that direction. I think the incentives are there, but I think we're also simultaneously seeing the U.S. adopt a more positive attitude towards crypto, at least in how they're talking about it. All right, I know that some people say one thing and do another, especially politicians are notorious for this type of thing. But I'll take it, right? I'll take the positive speech about crypto for now. So. All that positive speech makes me think that we're not going to see an all-out ban of crypto, which I think some people are scared of. But so how does that fit in with central bank digital currencies? Well, I think that one of the reasons for that is it makes a natural segue to start using some sort of type of central bank digital currency. And the most likely answer to crypto is regulation, so not banning. And the number one thing that I think would be firmly in the regulators' crosshairs would be stable coins, because I think, when you're talking about the strength of the United States dollar and all this other type of stuff, looking at a stable coin and saying, this looks suspiciously like what we do. And so instead of banning that, I think a bigger brain play is to put out a central bank digital currency and then regulate this thing and tax it to where it makes the alternative that you created look like the better alternative. And so instead of just saying, boom, you can't use stable coins, it's like, well, let's just make it harder for you to use stable coins and then, use our CBDC instead. Just a guess. We'll have to wait and see. Somebody says, who can ban crypto? They'll have just as much success as banning piracy. Yeah, I see that. I mean, a ban will still restrict. It'll make a big dent. I'll put it that way. There'd be lots of people who don't want to go to jail. It'll have an effect on asset prices if that happens. All right, everybody. Big announcement. No stream tomorrow. I'll be taking a day off of live streaming. I'll also be putting out a regular YouTube video, so don't wait around on me. We've been kind of floating around with our live stream time a little bit, been trying to make things out, changing things up, keeping it fresh. Just subscribe, turn on notifications. You're going to find out about when we go live again next. That'll be on Monday. And so, if you're as fast at this technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? You can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find those free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. We're putting out new ones all the time. And if you like those and you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master's shortcut entirely, I can show you become a blockchain master step by step, start to finish, over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. Help people with zero coding experience become real world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. And until next time,